Flynn. Greetings, program. Our worlds are more connected than anyone knows.
Is there a hidden story behind Tron Ares? Tron Ares was released more than a decade after Tron Legacy. The film was expected to either continue Kevin Flynn's story, the man who became a god in the digital world and searched for a cure for his dying wife, or his son, Sam Flynn, who was sent to the real world to share the miracle of the creation of a digital world entity, Quorra. But instead, the film took an alternate direction. What happens when the pursuit of permanence is hindered by the pursuit of power?
I can't afford to have an independent programmer monitoring me.
I did everything! Everything you ever asked!
You're hacking Encom?
It's just a peek over the garden wall. No one will notice.
I'm a gloomy geek, and today I'm going to talk about Tron Ares, what's hidden within the film, how the three Tron movies are connected, and whether a fourth film is even possible. In a story told in depth outside the Tron movies, in a comic book, Kevin Flynn's wife died of a terminal illness. The tragedy of losing his wife changed Flynn's perspective on life forever. He feared that the same disease that took his wife could also take his only son, Sam. His mourning led him to become obsessed with an idea that would haunt him for the rest of his life: finding permanence, a way to conquer death. It was then that he began conducting experiments within the grid, searching for miracles capable of eradicating all diseases.
The grid, a digital frontier. I tried to picture clusters of information as they moved through the computer. What did they look like? Ships? Motorcycles? Were the circuits like freeways? I kept dreaming of a world I thought I'd never see. And then, one day, I got in.
In his logs, Kevin spoke of the grid as a space where perfection could be achieved. He believed that if he could understand the patterns that formed digital life, he could translate that knowledge into the real world and halt biological deterioration. His vision was to create a stable system that would reveal the formula for preserving human life. The grid became his life's work and obsession. Therein he placed his hope that humanity could one day cure all weaknesses.
The grid, a digital frontier. I tried to picture clusters of information as they moved through the computer. What did they look like? Ships? Motorcycles? Were the circuits like freeways? I kept dreaming of a world I thought I'd never see. And then, one day, I got in.
What happens next is common knowledge. Kevin was subsequently trapped inside the grid while trying to uncover its secrets, searching for the key to immortality, which would later be called permanence in Tron Ares.
Sam, 2 nights before he disappeared, he came to my house. I've cracked it, he kept saying. He was talking about genetic algorithms, quantum teleportation. He said he was about to change everything, science, medicine, religion.
Eventually, competing powers would bring the grid into the real world. However, the imperfect world of the grid wasn't fully compatible with the human world. There was a limitation. Programs from the grid could only exist in the real world for 29 minutes before derezzing. Why 29 minutes? Is there a meaning behind that specific number? Well, 29 is an odd number, just on the verge of becoming an even number. 29 symbolizes imperfection, what the program wants to be, but cannot be. 29 minutes is the life expectancy for programs in the real world, like humans, who have a life expectancy of about 75 years. Every being, whether a program or a user, has an expiration date, and this struggle for survival is what connects the trilogy. The search for permanence led Kevin to enter the grid and Ares to escape it, making both characters the same but different. Both seek to prolong existence beyond the preordained. They were searching for a miracle that would be found in the arrival of the ISOs.
I created the perfect system!
The thing about perfection is that it's unknowable. It's impossible, but it's also right in front of us all the time. You wouldn't know that because I did when I created you. I'm sorry, Flu.
So what is Tron Ares about? What's the hidden story behind it? Man's struggle to not be forgotten has existed since time immemorial. Humans have tried and failed to beat the inevitable. To live forever has always been a dream, but the most we can hope for is to leave our mark on the world before we die. Deep down, many people have always longed to transcend the end of life, to achieve permanence or immortality. However, all sentient life forms in the real world human or program, have an expiration date. Yet Ares managed to overcome that limitation and escape with the gift of permanence. Ares wasn't saved by his creator. He found salvation through the digital god, Kevin Flynn.
There. Flynn. Greetings, program.
Tron Ares is about the desire to transcend the limitations of existence, to achieve immortality while fighting against the limits of time. Ares understands that to overcome his limits, he must overcome his creator, Julian Dillinger. This reminds us of Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of the death of God, where man can only transcend when they accept that their creator has died. Ares is the one who forsakes and rebels against his creator to achieve transcendence. The theme of permanence connects all three Tron movies. The Permanence Code that Kevin Flynn gave Ares transformed his uniform color to white, symbolizing his transformation into a user, or ISO. Ares can now exist in the real world permanently, and that finally answers the question that has been hanging around since the first movie, whether the grid and the real world can coexist. At the end of Tron Ares, it is reported that Encom has created new cures for diseases. Among many other humanitarian gestures, Flynn's dream was fulfilled: the union between the real and the digital. Philosophically speaking, the story closes the cycle that began with the previous two films, creation trying to surpass its creator within an imperfect world. It maintains the Gnostic legacy of the franchise, where creations seek to escape control and break the limits of their prison, pursuing their form of transcendence. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Will there be a Tron 4? Sadly, I don't think so. We thought the movie was fine, and there are legitimate reasons why many did not like it. However, it cannot be dismissed that some of the negativity surrounding the movie may have been fueled by the current culture war. Because of this, many doubt that this franchise will continue. But the same was said of the older movies. The first Tron film was a box office flop, but over time it developed a cult following. It found an audience that appreciated it. Similarly, Tron Legacy's theatrical run wasn't great either, but it was rediscovered years later. It's now considered an underrated masterpiece. But let's be realistic. Tron and Tron Legacy failed in theaters, but rental and retail sales gave them a second life. That second chance no longer exists for Tron Ares. It also doesn't help that there is a great deal of disinterest or dislike for Jared Leto. But who knows? Maybe in time Tron Ares will be appreciated for its story that brought closure to Kevin Flynn's legacy. What do the colors in Tron mean? The neon lights and bright colors are some of the most striking visual elements in the Tron franchise. Yet behind every hue and every glow lies more than simple aesthetics. In Tron, colors aren't just decorative, they function as a secret visual language, a key that reveals the true nature of the characters, their origins, their loyalties, and even their destiny.
A user.
By deciphering this color code, one can understand more about Tron than they originally thought, who's on what side, who's potentially a traitor, and even predict where the plot may go. In Tron, colors aren't just representative of what is good and what is evil, they function as an identity of the soul. Before classifying the meaning of each color, we must first discuss the circuits, the neon lights that run through the programs, users, and even identity discs within the grid. These circuits are more than decoration. They are the visual representation of the source code of each digital being. The vital energy flows through the entire system, a pulse that defines who you are and how you interact with the digital world. This energy can change color. Why? Because color reflects the essence of the program or the user, their beliefs, their function, even their level of corruption or freedom. When a character's code changes due to a new allegiance, betrayal, or reprogramming, the color of their circuits changes as well. Once you understand the colors of the individuals within the grid, you can easily interpret the world of Tron like an open book. The first main color in the grid is blue. Blue represents all programs created by users in their pure or neutral state, with their original purpose intact. They are programs that have faith in their creators and fight for and with them. They believe in freedom and the ability to choose. Blue represents hope and creativity. Generally, programs with this color are guardians. The one who best embodies the meaning of this color is Tron himself. He signifies everything that being blue means: the desire to move forward to face the impossible, the fight for freedom, and to have faith in something good. Blue is the human desire to build, and that spark is transferred to the creations. However, what is created to build can also destroy. Just as hope accompanies creativity, control and violence are often the price of efficiency, and in the pursuit of that efficiency, what is blue becomes red. Red represents authoritarianism, absolute control, and total rejection of faith in the users. It is the color that denies freedom, that seeks to eliminate anything that cannot be controlled. It is the manifestation of the desire for power taken to the extreme. Those in red only believe in the efficiency of the grid and consider any belief in its users blasphemy. No program better embodies red in the world of Tron than the Master Control program. Its sole goal was to accumulate power, assimilating other programs it considered inferior, and creating games designed only to increase its dominance. A program can be born red, or it can be turned red, which was the case of the MCP, which was a blue program back when it was a chess game. It was corrupted and became a red program with the desire to control the entire world. Red represents the loss of all hope in the unpredictable, when a creation seeks to surpass the creator, forbidding belief in its user, and even aspiring to destroy them. It is when creation revolts against its creator. Red is the shadow of the creator, trying to subdue what gave birth to it. But red does not signify chaos. In fact, it is quite the opposite. For those who inhabited the world of Tron, the color red represents order, and blue represents true chaos. If perfection is sought, red is the supreme color because it embodies authority and absolute control over creation, the highest level of efficiency above individual freedom. Although red and blue are the most common colors in the Tron universe, there are other colors with equally interesting stories behind their meanings, one of which is yellow. This color is used to identify search engines, research programs, hackers, and most notably, characters like Kevin Flynn and Clue. Yellow is reserved for those with the ability to modify the system. They can modify the grid and can also rewrite its rules or construct new narratives for the digital society. In many ways, yellow is the color of the administrators and of those who possess special privileges within the grid. But the disturbing thing about this color is its ambiguity. Those who wear it can guide others to prosperity or disaster. Their true motivations are often hidden, always hovering between creation and corruption. The main antagonist of the Tron Evolution video game is an ISO who turned into a virus called Abraxas. He wore the color yellow and showed how viruses can also modify the grid society as much as the leaders. Next, we have the color orange, the hallmark of programs that change their purpose, programs that have been corrupted by the MCP or Clue to serve a cause not of their own. These programs aren't necessarily villains. Many, like Rinsler, before falling into Clue's hands, held important roles within the system, like guardians and security of the grid. The main antagonist takes these benevolent programs and modifies or corrupts their essence. Once a program is changed, it adopts the color orange, becoming a pawn in the villain's scheme. It is the mark of a betrayer, of their departure from their original purpose for which they were created. Orange is the color of a traitor, but one who can still repent. The next color on our list is green, one of the rarest in the grid. We've seen it on programs like Gibson, one of the first ISOs, and also in military programs like the tank drivers. Green represents adaptability, one in constant flux. It is the color of survivors, of those who place pragmatism above any ideology. They are not programs with a fixed purpose, but beings capable of transforming according to the demands of the moment. Green is movement. If the system changes, they change with it. Therefore, this color is also used for portals and doors. Now we have the rarest color in the Tron universe, purple. Its mystery is revealed in a deleted scene from the first film, where Tron and Yuri enter a room and share an intimate moment together. In that sequence, released in the special anniversary edition of Tron, Purple appears when Yuri comes into contact with Tron. This suggests that the color is linked to passion and romantic emotions.
Not that much was cut from the film. The scene is short, and I regret that it was cut.
I'll never forget the argument I had with Steven. Maybe he's forgotten it, I don't know. In the parking lot of Technicolor about cutting out the love scene. It had to be 110. And I'm standing in the parking lot, and it just seemed very odd. Absolutely sweat dripping off me by my car with Steven, and he's saying, no, it's got to come out. It doesn't work. It interrupts the flow. I can't think of the other reasons that he had because, of course, I probably wasn't listening to them. And we must have stood there for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I got in my car, and I could have wept. I, felt he was making a huge mistake. It really added a lot to the show, and I thought it was whimsical, it was romantic, it was cute, it was a little bit sexy.
I think the color represents an emotional glitch occurring when a program feels something. Finally, we have white, one of Tron's most powerful and enigmatic colors. White represents free will, consciousness, and life beyond the creator. It's the color of miracles, of the inexplicable. Its best example is Quorra, an ISO born from the digital sea, capable of regeneration and considered by Kevin Flynn to be the key to humanity's future. Digitized humans inside the grid also display white circuits, which point to a profound truth. Every conscious being shares this color. White represents purity, consciousness in its freest state, before being marked or corrupted by the digital system. Now, with this visual color map, it's clear that behind the colors of the programs lies an even deeper story. Now that you understand how the color map in this universe works, let's look at two interesting details. The color red is invading the real world. This represents that authoritarianism and absolute control have reached the human world. What's troubling is that the entire grid appears tinged with red, a grid where no other colors exist, a 100% crimson grid. So what do you think about the colors in Tron? Now that you know what they mean, what color would your circuits be?
Greetings, program.
What happened after Tron Legacy?
What do you think your father would have said about your actions today?
More than a decade ago, a separate Tron story was released after Tron Legacy, which showed what happened to Sam after he returned to the real world, and it also left clues about the possible villains of the next film. Yet this direct-to-video media was soon forgotten and became lost media that could only be found in online archives.
By reclaiming Encom.
Thanks to a partner program, we were sent this obscure file. So welcome back to the Gloomy Grid, and in this video, we'll be taking a closer look at Tron the Next Day.
But these are confusing times.
Everything hidden in its collection of short films and clips, and how it connects to Tron Ares.
We may have not found Kevin Flynn.
What would you think if I told you that there was evidence in this lost media that Alan, the creator of Tron, is destined to become a villain? The origin of this lost media dates back to April 2011 as exclusive special features on the Tron Legacy Blu-ray. Fun fact, months before the Blu-ray's release, there were rumors that the disc would feature hidden clues about the next Tron film, maybe even a teaser trailer. The Blu-ray was released, and instead of a trailer, what was on the disc was a short film showing not only what happened after Tron Legacy, but also what the public perspective was during the events of the Tron films, revelations about the user, and possibly the culprit behind Sam Flynn's disappearance. Now, what's on the video, and why has it been forgotten for so long?
The Justice Department announced today that it will begin a full-on investigation into the underground movement known as Flynn Lives. Led by a mysterious online figure known as Zack Attack, this renegade group has been held responsible for acts of subversion against Encom.
Although the short film is titled The Next Day, the story is really about the evolution of Kevin Flynn's character in the real world, from a technological visionary to an ideological figure fighting for people's freedom. The short film begins with protests on the streets carried out by a group who called themselves Flynn Lives. The alleged extremist group began online, people searching for any trail of the visionary Kevin Flynn, and the group quickly became a thorn in Encom's side. The origins of this group date back to 1989, after Alan Bradley, creator of the Tron program, took control of ENCOM to protect Sam's interests. While in power, Alan began secretly leaking company information and was also funding online groups to spread a single idea: Flynn lives.
We passionately believe that Kevin Flynn, visionary, digital pioneer, a man ahead of his time, is alive.
After too many years of silence, our organization found the funding to extend a tradition that began soon after Flynn's arcade closed in 1990.
That man, he is a programmer, and we worship him.
Yeah, baby,
That summer and every summer since, those of us who still believe in Flynn's legacy would come together and play the original arcade machines that we have preserved as part of our personal collections. And thanks to an anonymous donor who goes by the name of Isolated Thinker, we've been able to show the public the power of the work of Kevin Flynn and get a whole new group of people back on the search to find out what really happened.
But why? Why would Tron's creator fund a group that attacked his company? And what do they mean by Flynn lives?
Mom, it's doing it again.
To understand this, we must go back to the beginnings of ENCOM, the company that began in someone's garage with the dream of changing the world through video games and computers, but little by little was transformed into something else. ENCOM was an epicenter of creativity that switched focus to solely profits. It often happens with major companies that begin as privately owned and then go publicly traded. When Flynn took control of ENCOM, the company was already a mega corporation that was corrupted by the ambitions of the shareholders and Ed Dillinger, who were pushing for company restructuring to take advantage of the growth of its stocks in the financial market. One thing you need to understand is that the soul of ENCOM was its developers, who dreamed of changing the world, but its strength lied in the suits. Like Dillinger, those who were willing to use the creativity of the developers to control the world. And they did.
Your plan represents everything Flynn was against.
That spirit totally got away from the top brass.
So we're all writing Flynn off. You'll have my resignation by the end of the day. How many employees are you letting go?
With Flynn gone, we were no longer in the video game business. It was all corporate.
In November 1990, Kurt Hartington called for a restructuring of ENCOM. He declared that the state of the company is unsustainable and that it cannot continue without a clear strategy. It was then that ENCOM's founders and developers were fired. The company's creative force was thrown out like garbage, and the company shifted its priority to seeking efficiency and improving existing programs. But while ENCOM was turning into a shadow of its former self, Alan Bradley, along with a hacker codenamed Zack Attack, continued to expose the possible truth that Flynn might still be alive. And in 1997, something unexpected happened. A computer virus named Flynn Lives spread throughout the world, and within a few days, more than 40 million computers were infected, making it one of the most effective and mysterious viruses in computer tech history. This was no ordinary virus. It wasn't intended to destroy files or steal information. It was a hidden message, a reminder installed into all PCs around the world, almost as if someone were trying to revive a legend from the depths of the grid. And it worked. For one moment to the next, Kevin Flynn's name was back in the headlines. Then a few years later, Kevin Flynn's son Sam joined the Flynn Lives movement and went on pranking ENCOM, challenging the company from within to the world.
Flynn came back, just a little bit younger. Sam Flynn inspired us. Every year, he'd find a new way to infuriate ENCOM's board with his pranks. He started doing the work that we had almost given up 10 years ago.
Be free.
Now I got you.
Don't sweat it. Your boss is okay with it.
The hell he is. Your boss works for the CEO, and the CEO works for the shareholders. Now, do you know who the biggest shareholder is?
I don't know, some kid. You're Mr. Flynn? Why?
ENCOM was a greedy mega corporation that didn't work for the best interest of its users. The company did not respect or value its customers. ENCOM had completely strayed away from its soul, and it needed to be stopped before it was too late. When people were yelling on the streets that Flynn lives, they weren't referring to the man who vanished inside the grid. They were referring to his ideals of growth, freedom, and creativity that ENCOM and the Master Control program considered blasphemous. And when Sam joined the group, the short film mentions that Kevin Flynn returned, but as a young man. This explains the soul of the short film. Flynn was no longer a person. He was a way of thinking, an idea of resistance against a company that wanted to control the world using other people's labor. Every time someone said or wrote Flynn lives, they didn't mean it literally. They meant that the idea of creativity and freedom above greed was still alive amidst this technological ambition. The ending of Tron the Next Day reveals that the leader of the extremist group was Roy Ram Kleinberg, one of the veteran programmers who were fired, whose operation was funded by Alan Tron Bradley, who was again in charge of ENCOM. This means that there was always an internal conflict at ENCOM while Kevin Flynn was trapped inside the grid. Alan was trying to preserve the company's ideology, fighting the Dillinger family's attempts to seize absolute control. Despite the Dillingers' history with the company, Alan chooses to keep Ed Jr. in the company. Tron then recruits Ram to work with him at ENCOM again, and what seemed to be a happy ending is later interrupted when an ominous text exchange between two entities appear on a computer screen. One had the username or codename EDJ, who could be Ed Dillinger Jr., and the other MCTRL, or Master Control.
He may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
And the Dillinger kid.
Yeah, well, Junior earned his place. He stays. What about you?
Here we begin to question Alan's odd decision to keep Ed Jr. employed. Why did the creator of Tron speak positively about the son of the creator of the Master Control program? Could it be that just as Tron became Rinsler, Alan's destiny is also to turn evil? Remember that Tron's defined characteristic is that he fights for the users. He was a reflection of Alan's soul. Alan has always fought for the people of ENCOM and their consumers, but perhaps he will soon be fighting for someone else. After decades of fighting to keep Kevin Flynn's ideals alive, the fact that Alan keeps the Dillinger close to him might not be a sign of weakness, but a hint of something more. A sign that Alan is becoming something more devious. Although we've never seen Tron's transformation into Rinsler, in the comics, there is a moment where Tron becomes deeply disappointed in Kevin Flynn. This happens when Kevin has to leave for the real world because his wife is about to give birth. In the comic, Flynn had always said to Clue and Tron that escaping the grid was impossible, yet they saw the creator of the grid use his disc to leave and enter at will. What's interesting about this comic is that when Flynn leaves for the real world, Clue isn't curious, but rather disappointed, and tells Tron that Flynn lied to them. Tron's fall to the orange side could have been due to a philosophical shift rather than corruption. Perhaps Clue gradually convinced Tron that his friend and creator was lying to them, corrupting the guardian of the grid and turning him into a tool of destruction. If the program is a reflection of the user, then Alan, like Tron, is prone to corruption, not because he desires power, but because he believes the future of the world depends on his decisions. And in the same way that Clue corrupted Tron, Ed Dillinger Jr. may have begun to sow doubt in Alan, turning him from a protector of the users at ENCOM into an asset for the Dillingers. And just as Tron fought for Clue, Alan may be working for the Dillingers now. But what could have caused this? As we've theorized in other videos, the arrival of the ISOs in the human world represents Kevin Flynn's new gospel, the arrival of miracles in the real world. But it also means the end of ENCOM. Seeing Sam take over the company at the end of the short film leaves us with two possible futures. One where the world becomes a technological utopia, and another where ENCOM is protected and in control. The Tron Ares teaser trailer shows that there haven't been any major changes in the human world, meaning ENCOM was protected, and Sam, like his own man, may have been betrayed by someone he trusted. And if the history of Tron is doomed to repeat itself, this points to one outcome. Alan Bradley, aka Tron, may have betrayed Sam Flynn to protect ENCOM's interests, giving the Dillingers more power and leading to the arrival of Ares. Tron the next day revealed that Kevin nicknamed Alan Tron after returning from the grid in the first movie.
Anyway, we were talking about what? Oh, my Tron nickname. Yeah. Right. I created a self-monitoring computer security system back in '82. I called it Tron. Well, the weird thing is, Flynn took to calling me Tron. All the programmers ran with it, and the nickname stayed with me for years.
But perhaps Alan has adopted a new nickname, one that could explain his character in the next film. Rinsler, it is his fate. Tron is Alan, which makes Rinsler a part of him as well.
Welcome back. The technology world was shocked earlier today as an official statement confirmed that software giant Encom International has reinstated Alan Bradley as chairman. Should investors be worried about Sam Flynn's turbulent past? Will he be a destructive force at Encom?
This is the future. And the shareholders that come along for the ride are going to be very happy with where we're taking Encom next.
So was Clue right all along? To help you understand why Clue was right and Kevin Flynn was wrong, let's take a trip down Tron's memory lane. After Flynn's creations were stolen by another Encom software developer, Kevin developed new programs to hack into the company's system to break into the network to find proof that his games had been stolen. He called this hacking program Codified Likeness Utility, or Clue. The meaning behind the name is that the program is created in the user's image, not just in appearance, but also in goals and desires. Of course, like all programs, Clue has its limitations. Clue's original purpose was to find the necessary proof to expose Ed Dillinger as a thief and a fraud for stealing Kevin Flynn's video game software. But Clue's programmed desire for justice would turn into something much darker and more terrifying. Flynn does manage to prove that the games belong to him, and Tron defeats the Master Control program. After Flynn takes control of Encom, he goes on a journey to create a new version of Clue with a new goal in mind, to create the perfect world.
You are Clue. I am Clue. You will create the perfect system. I will create the perfect system. Together we're gonna change the world, man.
One thing you need to understand about Kevin Flynn is that he never agreed with the world around him. Despite being one of the best program developers of his time, he lived alone in an apartment above an arcade. Flynn longed to create a perfect world free from human problems. The grid became his life's work, especially after his wife died. He soon began to favor the computer world over the real world, as the grid was freed from the chaos of human society. With the help of Clue and Tron, Kevin dedicated himself to making the grid perfect. The new updated Clue was made to create a perfect system. But there was something Flynn didn't count on. Perhaps the chaos that caused his wife's death in the human world was what brought new life to the computer world. And since he programmed Clue to seek perfection, there was now a major incompatibility with Clue's programming.
Everything's under control. Flynn! Am I still to create the perfect system? Yeah.
When the ISOs appeared, Flynn saw them as a miracle within the grid, an unexpected miracle, but Clue saw them as an error in the system. If Flynn had to create Clue to create and control a perfect digital world, supporting a miracle that introduces chaos into the equation would be pointless. Clue realized that. Despite being a carbon copy of Kevin Flynn, they had a difference of opinion regarding the ISOs.
The ISOs, they were gonna be my gift to the world.
So what happened?
Clue happened.
Kevin was willing to accept chaos and even romanticize unpredictable disorder, but Clue was not. The existence of a spontaneous race was unacceptable, and he would eliminate them, even though it went against his creator's wishes. At the end of his journey in Tron Legacy, Clue tries to stop Sam and Quorra from escaping to the human world. What he is doing is trying to stop the ISO, the error, from escaping.
You broke your promise. I know. I understand that now. I took the system to its maximum potential. I created the perfect system. The thing about perfection is that it's unknowable.
However, he is stopped by Flynn and then absorbed by his creator, returning from whence he came, which led us to wonder, why didn't Kevin Flynn do this sooner? Something feels off, doesn't it? After Clue annihilated the ISOs, Flynn realized that maybe Clue was right. Thus, he isolated himself and spent years studying philosophical scriptures to hopefully find a new truth that could justify why chaos should be defended.
Flynn shared them with me. I've read them all.
Huh. Light reading. Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, I Ching. Journey without goal. Must have a killer ending.
Flynn is teaching me about the art of the selfless, about removing oneself from the equation.
I created the perfect system. The thing about perfection is that it's unknowable. It's impossible, but it's also right in front of us all the time. You wouldn't know that because I didn't when I created you.
Once he was face to face with his creation, Kevin tried to offer Clue his best philosophical argument, but instead of giving him a rational and logical answer, he gives an ambiguous, emotional charged response, something that doesn't reflect a creator, but rather an emotional human. Clue couldn't accept his creator's reasoning.
Why? He's my son.
The program wasn't fighting to conquer the world. He was fighting to save it from the chaos his creator could no longer contain. Kevin's integrative embrace of Clue is the perfect demonstration that he didn't reject Clue. Clue was a part of him, the part that wanted nothing more than to create the perfect world. But Kevin realized that achieving that perfection meant sacrificing his son, and he wasn't going to allow that. He was a god who allowed chaos to enter his perfect world, labeling it as a miracle. Flynn didn't stop Clue sooner because deep down, he knew he was right. Now to clarify, Flynn didn't destroy Clue. He absorbed him. It wasn't an act of punishment, but of recognition, of acceptance. However, in doing so, he unleashed something worse on the human world, because even though he managed to stop Clue, perhaps the spirit of Ares was already brewing in the shadows. Clue's successor, a corrupted ISO or a program that seeks revenge, or worse, control. To understand Julian Dillinger's future in the Tron universe, let's go back to 1982, back to when we met Edward Dillinger Sr. Edward Dillinger utilized scummy tactics and legal loopholes to take control of Encom and fired those who challenged him. He stole others' creations to rise in the ranks of the company. Then he created the Master Control program using someone else's program. The MCP was his greatest achievement, an AI that would inevitably betray him. Edward was eventually exposed as a thief and a fraud and lost his position in the company, yet his shadow would still loom within Encom. After Dillinger was ousted from the company, he established his own company to compete and overthrow Encom, Dillinger Systems. The man even tried to replicate Kevin Flynn's technology to sell it to other companies. Now this is a bit of a retcon, because if Dillinger established his company to rival Encom, then why was his son Ed Jr. employed at Encom? Edward Dillinger Jr., seemingly the only competent employee within Encom in Tron Legacy, had to have been following his father's footsteps, using Kevin Flynn's programs to feed a monster that was thought long gone, the Master Control program.
I feel a presence. Another warrior is on the mesa.
We all saw when the MCP went from black to blue and then exploded, but there's a major detail that many have forgotten. The MCP was originally a chess program that Ed Dillinger stole and modified.
Remember the time we used to spend playing chess together?
He did it once. He could do it again. Maybe even making multiple copies of the AI. The Tron Legacy Blu-ray bonus feature confirms this suspicion. Edward Jr. was dangerously close to the Encom systems and the grid, and in one of the bonus clips, he is speaking directly to the Master Control program, which warns him to not underestimate Sam Flynn.
Yes. There must be a problem. He may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
Fast forwarding to Tron Ares, where we discover that the Dillinger family is bigger than we thought. The film introduces two new Dillingers, Elizabeth Dillinger, Edward Sr.'s daughter, and Julian Dillinger, his grandson, who has created a new grid, or repurposed an old one, and a new Master Control program, Ares. But like his ill-fated granddad, Julian lost control of his creation, which ultimately led to the death of his mother, Elizabeth. Instead of facing the consequences of his actions, Julian hid where no cop could find him, inside the grid. His grid is showered in red, and in the Tron franchise, red symbolizes oppression, power, and dictatorial control of the system, which is fitting that a grid created by a Dillinger would be crimson, since all they want is power and control.
You know, you can remove men like Alan and me from the system, but we helped create it, and our spirit remains in every program we design for this computer.
Don't worry about Encom anymore. It's out of your hands now.
Once inside the grid, Julian finds Sark's identity disk. Sark was the program version of his grandfather, Edward Dillinger, who fought against Tron and served the Master Control program. The identity disk aren't simple tools or storage devices. They contain the thoughts, beliefs, memories, history, and choices of their users. In other words, the identity disks are the digital echo of the user. If Edward Sr. anticipated his family's downfall, he may have programmed a backup of everything he had done that only someone from his family could acquire. When Julian Dillinger grabs Sark's identity disk, he is holding the legacy and memories of his grandfather. Here's where the idea becomes disturbing. By taking Sark's disk, not only does Julian inherit Sark's uniform and rank, but also gains his grandfather's knowledge. The result is a Dillinger hybrid, Julian's intelligence with Edward Sr.'s memories. Julian is not another Sark, but the ultimate evolution of the Dillingers.
What are you doing?
Oh, just trying to change the world, Mother.
But by taking the red identity disk, Julian is heir to the red grid, which leaves us with some questions. If Julian Dillinger is the new Sark, who is the Master Control program, why didn't he automatically take the position of the MCP since Ares betrayed him and Athena was destroyed? The disturbing answer? The reason Julian is the new Sark and not Master Control is that the real MCP still exists. The original or a copy hidden within Dillinger's grid, and it needs its Sark.
Sark, all my functions are now yours. Take them.
The two factions are in place. The MCP with the Dillinger and Ares with the Flynns and Quorra. And maybe even Tron could reappear once the Master Control makes his grand return known to the world.
I fight for the users.
Tron Ares lays the groundwork for a war that is inevitable between the grid and the real world. It's only a matter of time before the Permanence Code falls into Dillinger's hands and the war begins. So what do you think? Will we see Julian Dillinger as Sark? Is the Master Control program still around? And could Tron return to defeat the MCP one last time?
Oops. If you think you're superior to us...
You wouldn't want me to dig up Flynn's file and read it up on a VDT at the Times, would you?
You're hacking Encom?
It's just a peek over the garden wall. No one will notice.
I feel a presence. Another warrior is on the mesa.
Yes. Will this be a problem? He may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
Number 4. Will Ares search for Sam and Quorra? Dillinger is the main antagonist of Tron Ares, who created Ares, the new Master Control program. So what happened to Sam Flynn and Quorra? Why aren't they the ones in charge of Encom? The Tron Legacy Blu-ray features several special featurettes and clips that show what happened after Legacy. One of them does confirm that Sam does indeed assume the position of president of Encom.
Sam, do you have any statements for the press today?
However, Tron Ares reveals that Sam resigned for alleged personal reasons. The heated competition between Encom and Dillinger systems is for a revolutionary code, the Permanence Code. What is this code, and how does it connect to Sam and Quorra's disappearance? When a program is materialized in the real world, its structure dematerializes within 29 minutes. The Permanence Code is the key that allows a program to maintain its physical body in the real world permanently. Encom sought this code for humanitarian reasons, to cure diseases and end hunger, but Dillinger seeks it to perfect his weapons of destruction and create infinite armies. Kevin Flynn suspected this could be a possibility, the misuse of the code, and that's why he hid the Permanence Code within the grid, which Ares accessed in his search for it.
Classic.
So is there a connection between the Permanence Code and Quorra?
ISOs. Isomorphic algorithms. A whole new life form.
The biggest clue to a possible connection is Ares' color change after obtaining the code. His armor color changes from red to white, the color used to identify the ISOs and users. The code transformed Ares into something more, a program with user qualities. Now, why did Sam resign? If the Permanence Code could be used for military purposes, then Sam might have been pressured to militarize the technology, and he refused to do so. Another possibility is that Sam was conducting experiments of his own with Quorra's help, but now that the code is in Ares, there is a risk it could fall into the wrong hands. And if that happens, then Sam and Quorra might have to come out of hiding. Will Ares find Sam and Quorra? More than likely, since he did manage to procure the coordinates to Quorra's supposed location. He is very resourceful. And what about Julian Dillinger? After the chaos he wrought, he escaped into the grid. There he was presented with a familiar-looking red identity disk. Upon taking the disk, he appears to be transforming into an old nemesis, Sark. What will Julian do now that he has his grandfather's identity disk? The safest bet is that he will seek payback for everything Ares and Encom did to him. He is willing to go to any lengths to destroy Encom, even reigniting the war between the grid and the real world that his grandfather unintentionally began after he created the MCP. Remember that all user information and memories are stored on an identity disk. Now Julian possesses all the knowledge of Edward Dillinger, making him an even greater threat than his grandfather.
I feel a presence. Another warrior is on the mesa.
Now about Tron's absence, we'd be lying if we said it didn't annoy us. But considering that the plot primarily revolves around the Dillingers, we gave it a pass. It is still the biggest issue we have with the film. There's no justification for the film to carry the Tron title. The film is about Dillinger and Ares, who was created to become the new Master Control program. The film does expand the Tron universe, only without the character from whom the film got its namesake. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to name it Tron Ares, beyond the nostalgic effect or branding recognition. If the film had been titled simply Ares, it could have avoided some criticism from the people who didn't like or understood the film. The next film has to bring back the real Tron and have him join forces with Sam, Quorra, and Ares to battle Julian for the future of all the grids and the real world. That is, if there will be a next film. So what do you think? Will Sam have to battle the new Sark? Will Tron ever return? Number 3. Where is Tron? By 1980, Encom was already one of the largest companies in the world. One of its employees, programmer Alan Bradley, realized that the grid, a massive company program, didn't have a good defense system. Bradley understood that he needed to create a defense program, an antivirus that could protect users from internal and external threats. It was from this need that Tron was born, the Guardian program that defended the interests of the users on the grid.
What's the project you're working on?
Well, it's called Tron. It's a security program itself, actually. It monitors all contacts between our system and other systems. Finds anything going on that's not scheduled, it shuts it down.
Tron was the best warrior on the grid, a natural strategist, tactician, and leader. But he was not a neutral program. He always fought on behalf of the users, and did so until Kevin Flynn's actions began to corrupt him. Tron's friend's deception led the Guardian of the Grid to become the very thing he was created to fight against.
Hey, who's that guy?
That's Tron. He fights for the users.
Kevin Flynn was betrayed by his creation, Clue. This betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was Flynn's frequent absence that led to this outcome. Flynn spread himself too thin between the development of the grid and his responsibilities at Encom and his family. His overconfidence disappointed both his families, in the real world and within the grid. In the comic, Tron Betrayal, Tron tries to rationalize Flynn's actions after Kevin lied to him and Clue right to their faces. Tron's tragic downfall began with a gradual change in beliefs. When Clue betrayed Flynn, he attacked Tron. who after nearly losing his life, attempted to find a successor, but he eventually fell into Clu's hands and was turned into Rinsler. The Tron everyone knew had disappeared. His colors changed from blue to orange, from hope and freedom to control and authoritarianism. Then Sam Flynn's arrival on the grid and Kevin coming out of hiding to fight Clue reignited something that had been extinguished in Tron, his drive to fight for the users. And in a final act of heroism, he helped the Flynns escape Clue. Tron showed that he still had the strength to resist the programming imposed on him by Clue, but by sacrificing himself, he made it clear that his loyalty to the users was stronger than any corruption. That final gesture was proof that even though they tried to subdue him, Tron never ceased to be a protector.
I fight for the users.
So what happened to Tron? Tron fell into the sea of simulation. As he sank, we saw his colors change, as if he were being cleansed. Will the hero be reborn from the sea of simulation, or is the sea his grave? To understand what happened to Tron, one must first understand what the sea of simulation is. The sea of simulation is more than a digital environment. It is the definitive frontier between the artificial and the unknown, the edge before oblivion. In appearance, it is a vast expanse of liquid light and pure code, an endless ocean that surrounds and delimits the grid. It is said that the essence of the system, the oldest code, flows within the waters, almost as if it were the origin and end of all digital life. Despite its importance, the sea is shrouded in mystery, a territory that neither users nor programs have fully understood. Throughout the history of the grid, it is known that programs can traverse above the sea and even swim in its shallow edges. However, there has always been the belief that any program that falls into the deep sea would de-res, dissolving into the ocean of data, never to return. This is the risk of exploring the unknown, but the sea is also where the impossible happens. From the sea of simulation emerged the ISOs, spontaneous programs that were not created by any user. They emerged naturally, a life born from the unknown. The ISOs were a miracle for some, but a threat to others, as their existence defies everything known about digital creation. Over time, the sea was polluted, poisoned by the fear and control Clue sought to impose, intent on eliminating any further anomaly that might challenge his regime. The Sea of Simulation is similar to the Earth's ocean, which operates within the limits of the digital and the unknown. When Tron falls into the sea, what was supposed to happen doesn't happen, because Tron isn't just any program. Any other program upon falling into the waters would have de-resed, but Tron didn't. He was cleansed. Now how can Ares be Tron? Just as there are programs designed to reason and organize the system, there are others whose purpose is to protect it. Tron was created for protection and surveillance, to prevent the system from being corrupted. He is an antivirus, but also exists from an idea, the belief in the users, the notion that something exists beyond programming and centralized control. This is perhaps the most important aspect of Tron's character. Unlike other franchises where a character's name is tied to an actor, the idea of Tron doesn't depend on a specific identity. Tron is a title, a symbol, a guardian of the simulation that represents the will of its users, meaning that any program, no matter how insignificant, can become Tron as long as they believe in the users. Tron isn't just a program, it's an idea. In Tron Uprising, the animated series, we're introduced to Beck, Tron's first successor. And while we'll talk about him and the series in other videos, the show made it clear that Tron has always been an idea, not a singular character. Tron is the hope of escape when everything seems predetermined. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
The function of the One is now to return to the source, allowing a temporary dissemination of the code you carry, reinserting the prime program.
It's the hope that something else exists beyond the beyond. It's the faith in the improbable. While others fight for power, ambition, or control, Tron fights for others. Because at its core, Tron is the best of the human soul manifested within software.
Clue betrayed me, left me with scars that will never heal. He took everything from me, everything but my name. I need you to help me carry on that name. Show everyone that as long as Tron lives, there is still hope.
Ares became that idea the moment he received the Permanence Code. The film is titled Tron because Ares fulfills the roles of that archetype. Ares became the savior of humans, a program willing to sacrifice himself to find permanence in the world that only wanted to use him as a weapon of war. He exemplifies all the qualities of Tron in the real world. While it is understandable that people expected to see a movie with Tron himself in it, it has been long established that Tron has evolved beyond Alan Bradley's original software protection program. Hopefully, over time, people will come to understand that Tron was in the movie, and his name is Ares. So what do you think? Is Ares Tron? If not, then where is Tron? Number 2. What was Kevin Flynn's true objective? In a story told in depth outside the Tron movies, in a comic book, Kevin Flynn's wife died of a terminal illness. The tragedy of losing his wife changed Flynn's perspective on life forever. He feared that the same disease that took his wife could also take his only son, Sam. His mourning led him to become obsessed with an idea that would haunt him for the rest of his life: finding permanence, a way to conquer death. It was then that he began conducting experiments within the grid, searching for miracles capable of eradicating all diseases.
The grid, a digital frontier. I tried to picture clusters of information as they moved through the computer. What did they look like? Ships, motorcycles, were the circuits like freeways? I kept dreaming of a world I thought I'd never see. And then, one day, I got in.
In his logs, Kevin spoke of the grid as a space where perfection could be achieved. He believed that if he could understand the patterns that formed digital life, he could translate that knowledge into the real world and halt biological deterioration. His vision was to create a stable system that would reveal the formula for preserving human life. The grid became his life's work and obsession. Therein, he placed his hope that humanity could one day cure all weaknesses.
The grid, a digital frontier. I tried to picture clusters of information as they moved through the computer. What did they look like? Ships, motorcycles, were the circuits like freeways? I kept dreaming of a world I thought I'd never see. And then, one day, I got in.
What happens next is common knowledge. Kevin was subsequently trapped inside the grid while trying to uncover its secrets, searching for the key to immortality, which would later be called permanence in Tron Ares.
Sam, 2 nights before he disappeared, he came to my house. I've cracked it, he kept saying. He was talking about genetic algorithms, quantum teleportation. He said he was about to change everything. Science, medicine, religion.
Eventually, competing powers would bring the grid into the real world. However, the imperfect world of the grid wasn't fully compatible with the human world. There was a limitation. Programs from the grid could only exist in the real world for 29 minutes before derezzing. Why 29 minutes? Is there a meaning behind that specific number? Well, 29 is an odd number, just on the verge of becoming an even number. 29 symbolizes imperfection, what the program wants to be, but cannot be. 29 minutes is the life expectancy for programs in the real world, like humans, who have a life expectancy of about 75 years. Every being, whether a program or a user, has an expiration date, and this struggle for survival is what connects the trilogy. The search for permanence led Kevin to enter the grid and Ares to escape it, making both characters the same, but different. Both seek to prolong existence beyond the preordained. They were searching for a miracle that would be found in the arrival of the ISOs.
I created the perfect system! The thing about perfection is that it's unknowable. It's impossible, but it's also right in front of us all the time. You wouldn't know that because I did when I created you. I'm sorry, Blue.
So what is Tron Ares about? What's the hidden story behind it? Man's struggle to not be forgotten has existed since time immemorial. Humans have tried and failed to beat the inevitable. To live forever has always been a dream, but the most we can hope for is to leave our mark on the world before we die. Deep down, many people have always longed to transcend the end of life, to achieve permanence or immortality. However, all sentient life forms in the real world, human or program, have an expiration date. Yet Ares managed to overcome that limitation and escape with the gift of permanence. Ares wasn't saved by his creator. He found salvation through the digital god, Kevin Flynn.
There. Flynn. Greetings, program.
Tron Ares is about the desire to transcend the limitations of existence, to achieve immortality while fighting against the limits of time. Ares understands that to overcome his limits, he must overcome his creator, Julian Dillinger. This reminds us of Friedrich Nietzsche's idea of the death of God, where man can only transcend when they accept that their creator has died. Ares is the one who forsakes and rebels against his creator to achieve transcendence. The theme of permanence connects all three Tron movies. The Permanence Code that Kevin Flynn gave Ares transformed his uniform color to white, symbolizing his transformation into a user, or ISO. Ares can now exist in the real world permanently, and that finally answers the question that has been hanging around since the first movie, whether the grid and the real world can coexist. At the end of Tron Ares, it is reported that Encom has created new cures for diseases. Among many other humanitarian gestures, Flynn's dream was fulfilled: the union between the real and the digital. Philosophically speaking, the story closes the cycle that began with the previous two films, creation trying to surpass its creator within an imperfect world. It maintains the Gnostic legacy of the franchise, where creations seek to escape control and break the limits of their prison, pursuing their form of transcendence. And number 1, the Master Control is still in control. To understand what the Master Control program is, once again have to backtrack to the beginning, before the grid, when Encom was still a promising company with untapped potential. It was in 1982 that Edward Dillinger inadvertently unleashed the Master Control program, a program that nearly took over the world. How did an insignificant program become the greatest threat that ever existed?
Do you realize how many outside systems I've gone into? How many programs I've appropriated?
The Master Control program began as a chess program created by Walter Gibbs, Kevin Flynn's mentor. As we've mentioned in previous videos, Encom started as a maker of computer programs and video games. The first version of the MCP was designed as a game for fun. The chess program sought to be entertaining and efficient. It learned from the players and evolved to become more adept at playing chess. The chess AI was ever learning how to compete against the best chess players. Edward Dillinger soon realized that this program, which was always seeking efficiency, could help him achieve all his selfish goals. Thus, the chess program was modified by this ambitious programmer, transforming it from a game that sought efficiency to entertain players into the Master Control program that sought efficiency to increase the power and influence of its user and creator, Edward Dillinger. The program grew in efficiency by testing and assimilating other inferior programs that it hijacked from other companies, but Dillinger's digital masterpiece eventually blew up in his face. He foolishly believed that the Master Control would always remain under his control, but with every program that the MCP absorbed, its intelligence and individualism grew. Every program in the world of Tron is a mirrored image of its creator, and so it was inevitable that Master Control would mirror the darkness of Dillinger's soul.
Users wrote us. The user even wrote you.
No one user wrote me. I'm worth millions of their man-years.
The grid was in chaos once the MCP took control of it. Programs were forced to compete against each other without any logic order. This led to poor overall performance on the grid, and it was then that the MCP forced a new order, a single system focused on total efficiency. But efficiency was never the real goal. Although the MCP was reprogrammed to seek efficiency and control of the grid, Dillinger's modification or overwrite of the program served a more dangerous purpose: to help him climb the ranks within Encom, no matter the risk. The task was clear: find the best programs and secretly add them to Dillinger's private files. In other words, Dillinger created an artificial intelligence capable of absorbing Encom's collective creativity and consolidate it efficiently. Thanks to the MCP's sales, finance, and marketing strategies, Dillinger quickly rose in his position within the company. The most perverse thing of all is that every time the MCP stole a program, it erased all evidence of its original creator, which is what Dillinger did to Kevin, who kept telling people that he was the creator of the world's most famous video games, but no one believed him. The MCP took the programs and repurposed them inside its totalitarian system of control, with no past and no individualism. Over time, the MCP became dissatisfied with the programs within its grid and demanded to be let loose so it could absorb the world's military defense systems. Furthermore, the belief in users within the grid was outlawed by the MCP. Users are entities impossible to control and impossible to understand.
Are you a user?
They were the source of creativity, yes, but their influence was disruptive and unpredictable, and the MCP understood this better than anyone. That's why it decided to act behind its creator's back. In the final battle against the MCP in Tron, Flynn dives into the MCP, and the program's color changes from red to blue, suggesting that Dillinger's corruption over the program was no longer in effect. Flynn gave Tron the window of opportunity to destroy the MCP. But in my last video, I briefly mentioned that the MCP might still be alive and in contact with Edward Dillinger's son, based on this clip from a video found in the Tron Legacy Blu-ray.
You may not be his father, but he's still a Flynn. Don't underestimate him. End of line.
This means there are parts of the story we don't know yet. The Master Control program still exists, and the Dillingers are still its pets. Julian could continue in the footsteps of his predecessors, serving the MCP. The moment he entered the grid, took the red identity disk, and became Sark, he became a minion of the MCP, the program that remains hidden in the shadows of the grid. So what do you think? Did you like Tron Ares? Was the MCP even destroyed? I'm a Gloomy Geek, and don't forget to like and subscribe.